There's a bee in my bonnet, hello.
Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm gonna try on all my handmade knits, which are currently all around me and on top of me. Let's start right into it. Yeah. Being a knitter, it's a lot of trial and error, like with anything crafting that you do. And over the years, I have done some crazy colors, crazy patterns. Often I've had way too many ideas that I've tried to combine into one knit. So if you're a knitter yourself, or maybe if you're looking to start knitting, hopefully you'll get some good tips from this video and learn from my mistakes. Obviously, like, developing your own style takes time. I'm not somebody who really follows patterns. I like to create my own patterns, even though when you're starting out, it's probably good to do a few patterns first, so you just sort of get the hang of it and learn how to combine sleeves and all that stuff and construction. But without further ado, let's just start. And I think we're gonna start chronologically, and I'll show you one of the first knits I made, which has a bit of everything. Okay, first we're jumping into crazy territory, which basically means just a lot of colors and a lot of patterns, as you'll see in this one. That was one of the first knits I ever made. Now the mic will probably scratch a little bit. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on in this cardigan. So I've paired different patterns and different colors. I even have these crochet buttons, and it's just a lot, and it's one of those, I think, beginner mistakes where you can't make up your mind, and then because it's just like too much. So I've actually never really worn this. Also, it's a little bit itchy, which I'm super sensitive to itchy materials. That's Bella playing with Christmas bubbles in our Christmas tree. Anyways, I'm super sensitive to itchy materials. So I will go around in the yarn shops and like squish every yarn and like try them on and like touch them with my skin. This was a weird demonstration of that, just to see that they're not itchy. I've found that alpaca is the most non-itchy, and like lamb's wool is quite itchy. But yeah, I've never worn this, but I think I learned quite a lot. One of my favorite ways to knit is in the round, so with circular needles, where you start from the bottom, or you can also start from the top, and then you just basically knit a tube up until the sleeves. Then you knit the sleeves also on circular needles. You just attach those to the body, and then you knit the yoke. And I really like this way because then you don't have to go back and forth, and it becomes really smooth and nice when you knit. And also when you're knitting with many colors, you can make really nice intricate designs on the yoke. As you can see here, I've gone really all out with this, with different knits. So I've done with a lot of flower themes and just, again, quench that thirst for color. And I love to go in a yarn shop and just look at the colors and think of different color combinations. And one thing that I've learned with knitting is that actually colors that look pretty vibrant and have a pretty strong contrast, then they will always get a little subdued when you knit. So some colors, like with this one, for example, I don't think there were enough contrast between the yarns, so it didn't turn out that great. And I've even, like, this is the crazy thing, like sometimes I will spend weeks on making something and it's almost complete, the whole project, and then like with this, there's still like a lot of yarns that I just never finished. And I've never worn this one. I don't know why that is, but I have so many unfinished projects, and I think a lot of knitters will feel this. Another nice thing about when you knit in the round, because that's not really something that you can find in a shop, because when you knit, like the things you buy in a store, usually they're knitted with these knitting machines. They can just do like back and forth. So usually if you have a knit that is with this kind of pattern in a shop, there will be like a seam here. But when you do it by hand, there isn't any seam here because you're just doing it like going around. So there's that little added bonus. When you hand knit, you can make stuff that you can't really find in a shop. This one is one of my absolutely favorite knits. It's like really chunky, and I've worn this so much. Again, knitted in the round on circular needles. I made it in a really neutral color, so it would go with a lot of things, and I have worn it a lot. And one of the like aha experiences of my life as a knitter was that I've done this, the collar of the neckline. So instead of just doing it single, so you would normally just do a rib once, I've done it twice. So it's actually, I knitted it like towards here somewhere, and then I just folded it. So it's actually much thicker than normally, and that's what I've seen in these, you know, like the gunny knits that were really hyped a few years ago, and also on other ones. And I just feel like it adds a lot more kind of chunkiness up here, because that tends to, when you hand knit, it can sometimes look a little floppy or like sloppy. No, not sloppy, floppy. But this kind of takes that away and just looks more contemporary for some reason. I don't know why that is, but I feel like it gives it a more better structure, is what I'm trying to say. This one is also made with this double collar that I explained about the other one, and again I feel like it just brings a lot of texture to the whole thing. And this is more of a boxy one with a slouched shoulder. It was really easy to knit. Again, like this is really so many of my knits that have these little bits of thread coming on. Yeah, but this is one of my most used knits. Really simple. I think that's why I use it so much, because it's just easy to pair with things, as opposed to like the ones from, if you remember in the beginning, the crazy ones. They've just proven to be really difficult to actually wear in normal life. And maybe I also knitted them at a time where my style was more extravagant, and I was still kind of testing things out, but now definitely more subdued, and I've calmed myself down after my wild years of knitting. Next up we have this hoodie, cardigan, lace pattern thingy. I even added some colored stripes here on the edges that honestly, if I would do this again, I would probably take that away. This one I did use quite a bit actually, and I quite like that it has a hood. I haven't done too many of those actually, but there's something, I guess it takes away a little bit that thing that when you're knitting, it has a tendency to become very grandma territory. So the hood, I think, adds some kind of little bit of a sporty detail to it. Also, I'm really into kind of long sleeves. I think that's quite elegant. But again, it's a little bit too much of just everything, I would say. I really have a thing for pockets, and with this one, I think this is my only knit where I've actually made pockets, even though I really like them. And yeah, I just think it's quite nice, this color, pink. I haven't worn this in a really long time, but it's really, really warm and super soft. Is this Sandes yarn. I think it's called Brushed Alpaca, which I've used quite a bit. It's super soft and doesn't itch at all, so I can really recommend that if you're as sensitive to itching as I am. Also, I should mention that the t-shirts I'm wearing, they're my own merch, so if you would like to have one of your own, you can get those in my merch store. This one I knitted with yarns I bought in Iceland. I went to Iceland back in, was it 2013 or 2012? Yeah, and I used this a lot back then. Again, I think the fit is a little too long, and I wish I would have made it so again, like that it would go in more here and that it would be more kind of bulging, like so. Or maybe if I would tuck it into my jeans, it would look better. Okay, my jeans are so tight, it doesn't really work, but this is kind of more the silhouette I like now. And before, I feel like all of them, also because when you knit something, it is so heavy, and that's also a tip to actually, here I've hung up some of my knits, but I never store them like hanging on hangers, because the weight of it will just pull it down, so they will get longer and longer. And I don't know, I have always stored them so that I've put them, I can't find words anymore, folded them in my closet. Yeah, because they will otherwise just grow and become too big, which is also when you wear something, in my experience at least, they tend to grow a little. So I try to take that into consideration when I'm planning a knit. One thing that I've done on quite a few of my knits is that I've crocheted the button myself. And I think it adds a nice touch of that handmadeness. Can't really say that. Also, actually, totally forgot to mention, if you would like to learn how to knit, I have a video on how to knit, and also you might not actually associate it, but this video is sponsored by Skillshare, who I've worked with before. And if you don't already know, Skillshare is an online learning platform with lots of different classes, and actually they also have classes in knitting, which wasn't something that I automatically associate with Skillshare. Usually when you see like people mentioning Skillshare, it's maybe more about like photography or animation or editing and these kind of like digital art or journaling classes, but there's like a huge library of classes with knitting and construction, and also like just with sewing and fashion and making your own garments, which I was really happily surprised because you can always learn something new. So if you'd like to dive into that, then definitely click the link in my description below and you'll get a free trial of Skillshare premium membership. And also to then join is just less than $10 a month. So yeah, this was just like, I was really surprised that they offer classes even in knitting. So if you'd like to dive into that, I know I get a lot of questions about knitting, and I have like a beginner's basically class, but then like obviously making a sweater, you need a little bit more advanced techniques and just know how to put it all together. So then Skillshare is one place to go. At one time, I was really obsessed with all kinds of lacy details and cables. And when you do like lace and cables, I find that it's best to work with lighter yarns because then you can see them more. And this one is called, I think I named this the Audrey cardigan. I even made a pattern out of it that you can find on Ravelry. And oh, this took so long to knit, but I wore this a lot. It is a bit of a different color as well, and I put kind of these little bobble details around. And overall, I think it's a really nice one. Again, the shape is not really so modern anymore. It doesn't feel so current. So I don't think I would maybe wear this anymore. But I can show you sort of my 2020 take on this cardigan, which I've worn so much. So this just instantly feels so much more modern. Oh, there's again like constantly finding yarns that I forgot to finish off. All right, like that. Yeah, so this shape is just much more cropped and short and also kind of more boxy. So instead of going circularly in the round, I've knitted this as like one piece, the back one piece, and then the sleeves. And it has like an off shoulder. So instead of knitting and that you would make, so you would start to decrease for the sleeves, I've actually just gone completely straight, and then it gets this kind of more boxy look, and it's actually easier to do. And yeah, this has been one of my absolutely most favorite knits. I'm so happy with this one, and I do think the buttons is a big part of it, which I've liked it so much. And yeah, it's just like a good length, a good fit. Like the sleeves are really oversized and nice, and yeah, good amount of detail, and it's not itchy. Another quite similar one is this one that is my most recent knit. It's a yellow, very boxy cardigan, and I think these little buttons that are, again, I've crocheted them, but this time I crocheted them so I just crocheted around an actual button to give them a little bit more sturdiness so they're not so flimsy. And I really like this yellow color. So this one again has this really cropped shape that I think looks really nice right now, and it works with like high-waisted jeans or with a dress. But then the sleeves are quite kind of long and quite chunky, and oh, this one is super soft and fuzzy, and it's knitted with, I think this is like a blend of alpaca and maybe wool. But it's super lightweight, and so it's not so heavy or thick and dense, which I also like, and I also did it with pretty big needles, so this one I've worn a lot. It's getting so dark. I'm really struggling with light at the moment. It's December, and even in the middle of the day it doesn't really get enough light for me to film, so we're gonna see how this is gonna go. Hope this footage isn't all too dark. Okay, this one is one where I wanted to try to make the yoke, so I've knitted it, how can I explain this? So these like around the sleeves, and these ones are knitted in the other way, like the other direction than you would normally do, and also the yoke. So I knitted this first, like these cables, and then I've attached them to the body that I've knitted, I think maybe on circular needles, I'm not sure. And then also finished it off with these, what do you call these, like the side linings. If I would do this again, I think I would have made, again, like the yoke a little bit bigger. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I was really into this very kind of vintagey, romantic style. So the buttons are, yeah, very romantic, and kind of this has this cottage romance feeling going on, which this is maybe a little bit too much for what I'm into right now, but it was a fun project to do. I remember making this stitch took forever, and it was a really lengthy process. Okay, next I'm going to show you, I think this is kind of, I'm pretty proud of my craftsmanship in this one, because I've combined both crochet and knitting in this one. So the whole thing is, yeah, it's just like a mix of crochet and knitting techniques, and these colors or these yarns are hand dyed. I wanted to make something really spectacular with them and really kind of show off these colors. It was so difficult to then, when I had crocheted these big, like these large pieces, to get them to like stay straight so they wouldn't like wobble all over. That I remember was super challenging, and I kept fighting with that. But I have worn this quite a lot. It kind of has a bit of a kind of festival feeling, like I'm thinking sort of like a Coachella vibe, and I did wear this to one festival with just like a white sort of vintagey lacy dress and with boots, and then this one because also it's so warm. So in the summer, like this is my definitely best trick, because I really like to wear dresses, but in the summer, in the evenings especially, it can get quite cold. But then when you have a handmade knit, because the ones that you get from the store, if they're like acrylic, it's like night and day basically. Like anything with kind of acrylic fiber, it just won't keep you warm. But immediately when you have like wool or alpaca or something that is actually, yeah, not, what do you call it, artificial, it's a whole different thing. Also now when it's minus degrees, if I know it's gonna be freezing or if I'm gonna go out taking photos, I always put one of my handmade knits, because then you just won't get cold. This one is a real old classic, and this one I also have the pattern for in my Ravelry little page or shop or whatever you call it. And I've worn this so much. It's probably like five or 6 years ago that I knitted this. I have some quite a nice photos from Portugal of it. I'll put them in here if I'll find them. It's quite, again, long, which, well, this was like really the point, to make a really oversized cozy knit. So when you're cold, and at the time, because I was studying dance, and often when we would have classes, you want to be really warm, like your body. So I wanted to have like a knit that would keep me really warm in between when we had breaks, and this is perfect for that. This one was a bit of a pity, because I knitted this one in a super nice color, but I think I made it too thick. So the fit just isn't so nice, and I'll show you what I mean. But it's really a shame, because I really like the color and like the idea of the whole sweater. Actually it looks much nicer than I remembered. I don't know, I have to start wearing this. It's actually super nice. Maybe it was back when I made it, I had a different idea in my head, and then it didn't turn out like that, and then I just decided that it wasn't so nice. It's somehow, I think with knitting, I go every time through this process of first, I'm really excited, I have this vision for what I'm gonna knit. Then I start knitting it, and it's, well, sorry. I start knitting it, and it's kind of exciting in the beginning to see how it will work out and how it will look. And so often, just as I'm sort of coming to the finish line and I'm starting to see how it will all look, I've kind of gotten a little bored of it. So then when it's actually done, and I think that's why I often have projects that are almost finished, but then for some reason I just don't go that like final bit. So then there are like yarns or like pieces that I haven't put together, because when you've worked on something for so long, then you see the outcome, and often it's not going to be exactly as you envisioned. So just because of that, it feels like a disappointment, and then you just kind of toss it away, and it feels like the excitement or that whole thing of wanting to see how it will look, you kind of saw already, and then you're like, this is boring, I'm gonna move on to the next thing, which is kind of really stupid when you put so much time and effort into something. But this happens to me often. But this was a really happy surprise. I think this is, I'm gonna definitely start wearing this. This is super nice, and the color is also really, really nice. I really, really like the color of this one. It's kind of a rusty red brownish, and it's again knitted from that Sandes Brushed Alpaca yarn, which is quite expensive, but I do feel like it's worth it because it's really good quality and warm and non-itchy. As you might know, I started out by having a web shop for knitwear. So I actually made knitwear that I sold, and I made them by hand. So this is one that is left from one of my collections. And then I also had a knitting machine. But then what kind of stopped me from pursuing that really as a career, and then I transitioned into photography, was that it kind of took the fun out of it, because I love to knit. But then when it became like work and the pressure to actually sell and handmade knits, because it takes, you know, 3 to 4 weeks, or well, depending on the job or the sweater or pattern, of course, but you have to put like a really high price to be able to make a living, essentially, after all the materials and just time spent on it. And I made some calculations, and I realized I have to sell so much and I have to knit so much, and it started to feel very, very heavy. And that's why, even though I would love to be a knitwear designer and do that as a job, it just felt like making them by hand is not sustainable. But that was kind of where I started off my whole Kutovakika journey. So when I had my knitting shop, the thing that I would sell the most was these hats that I had a knitting machine that I made these with. And then I'm a really big lover of pom-poms. So I had them in different colors. This one even has like the label still from being on, you know, on a fair. Okay, the last knit, and well, the last knit of my hand knits. I do have quite a lot of knits that I've also made with the machine, but it's so dark and so cold, so I'm gonna maybe show them in another video. This one is the last one of today. Again, a really simple one. I wish I would have made it a little bit shorter. I think it would look nicer. It would be a little bit more cropped and also made with the double color, but this one I have used quite a bit. I really like this color. It's kind of desaturated, rusty red, kind of faded, like brick wall almost. And again, it's not itchy at all, which is really, I love that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you had as much fun as me seeing all my knits from the years, or all the knits that I have at the moment. Obviously some I've given away or them sold. I think when it comes to knitting, it's one of my dearest hobbies, and I've been doing it ever since I was a child, and I keep evolving. And I think with knitting, what makes it so addictive is that every time you finish one project, you get so many ideas that you want to try out for the next one. And the more you knit, the closer you will get to actually get that result as close to your vision as possible. And then preferences like yarn and how thick you want it to be, and also like how tight you knit, all those things you need to take into consideration. So I didn't go so much into the kind of technical world of it all. This was more like a design inspiration mashup or something like that, or just looking, yeah, I've knitted a lot. That's fair to say, I think. If you'd like to see some of my photos, I do also post some of my knits every once in a while on my Instagram account. You can come and say hi. I'm over at Kutovakika on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
There's a bee in my bonnet, hello, hello. A bee in my bonnet, hello. There's a bee in my bonnet, hello, hello. A bee in my bonnet, hello.